Uh, for the call today, I intended to specifically share in line with the theme land as an investment and getting prime land at a low cost. So I prepared a small presentation of about 5-6 slides with an aim of trying to acquaint people with the dynamics of prime and the country, especially where Uganda as a nation is moving. Because I feel that basing on the theme you set, people need an understanding of the direction that the country is taking in terms of infrastructure, in terms of urbanization, and that will help us to be able to answer how we can now acquire the prime land. So I started by trying to define for people briefly what urbanization is, because later on you realize that what people call prime is what sits or exists in some sort of urban center. So I want us to understand that we have an increase in the number of people living in towns and cities, globally and especially in Uganda. If you see there, they are saying that more than half of the world's population lives in urban areas. If you compute the population of people living in those towns, however small it is, and you compare it with people that live in rural areas in our villages, deep down where we go to bury, unless you bury in Chanja, like a friend of mine recently, there are villages in Chanja, and that's where they bury. But I'm talking of the deep villages. The people living there combined are not more than the people living in urban centers. Urban population in Uganda was reported at 12 million Ugandans in 2022. That there are 12
Matovu,
million people.
I don't know whether it's me, but your slides are not moving.
Yeah, I'm still on one slide.
Okay. I thought it was my problem. It's okay.
Yeah. So they are saying that today 55% of the world's population lives in urban areas. And like I said, I want people to understand what urban is, because as we go ahead in my practice, we have people that have clinged onto Kampala with the thought that probably Kampala is the only urban area. But urban talks about how many people live in that area, is the number living in that area high, is the business living in that area high, and as long as we have those characteristics, we mean an urban center. So I've now moved to the next slide. Has it moved? Rita? Hello?
Maybe it's me. I don't know. You try to move again and we see.
Okay.
Put them on, I think, full. Have you put them like on slide share? I mean full slide.
Yes.
Okay, maybe just reshare. I don't know. Are the slides moving for other people?
No.
No, they are not.
Okay. Maybe you may
Which
have
one are
it.
you seeing?
The first
I'm
one.
seeing prime land at a low cost.
Why isn't it working? Okay.
Yeah, now it has moved. You reshare and then.
Okay, which one are you seeing now? The one of low cost?
No, you reshare. Because now the screen sharing has stopped.
Yeah. Share screen. This one. And
Yeah.
there?
It's moving. So now
Low
try
cost.
to. Yeah, now we are at low cost.
Okay. So you saw that one?
Now we are seeing low cost. You move again and we see if they
I've
can.
moved.
It's not moving. It's at low cost.
Okay, I'll be probably sharing as I move on.
Okay.
So now I'll try to talk about low cost. That the definition of low cost is relative, depending on a person's financial muscle, willingness, and capacity. So as of date, we have not got a global definition of what constitutes low cost, because as you know that people's financial muscles, financial capacity is different. That what is low cost to me might not be low cost to Joanne, might not be low cost to Michael, might not be low cost to any other person. So it is different, and I tried to read about what they call low cost in the US. I didn't find any. I just found them say that, okay, for someone to say that their housing is low cost, they should spend not more than 30% of their gross income. So you find that anything beyond 30% of their gross income is quite expensive. So us trying to derive figures for what constitutes to be low cost is really relative, depending on how much earns, on how much a person earns rather, on how much a person has saved, on how much a person has been able to, get from the different sources of income that they have. So I want to move to my next slide now.
It has moved.
It has moved
Yes.
to prime land.
Yes.
Okay. So usually people ask us the question that was on the theme, that what is prime land? And uh, prime locations are those locations that are highly desirable with commercial property location with excellent accessibility, visibility, and high foot traffic. It is typically situated in a heart of a popular shopping district or a busy urban center. Now, where I am trying to take people is to open our minds to different locations, because we have gone to areas that people don't want, especially in view of the word affordability. That certain areas that people may desire are not really affordable in their own accord. But I tell people that you can still get prime in another area where the area qualifies to be prime. That you'll go to, let's say, a town called Lira, a town called Isinjiro, maybe you go to Kabera Maido, maybe you go to Chiriandongo, maybe you go to Jinja. And in all those urban centers, you're going to find there men that are very rich. And what has made them rich is because they have decided to capture or to niche this small urban center that many are despising, while most of us are here struggling over one urban center called Kampala. So I want to open the minds of people that prime locations will vary depending on which area you are in. Because if you note where we started from, that we hadn't noted that there are people, when I was reading about rural urban migration, that there are people that now leave villages not coming to Kampala, but they are going to other urban centers. Okay, someone lives, let's say, their village in Kamuli, but they are going to stay, let's say, in Mukono, or they are going to stay in Kayunga, or they are moving all across, going to stay in Wobulenzi, Oluwero, or Zirobwe, or Matuga. They have gone through Kampala to go and live in another urban area. Now, as those people live in those areas, the populations increase, the business increases, and such areas also become prime. I want to talk about major arteries to the central business district. Has it moved?
No. Yes, it has moved.
To a map?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I try to share this map that I have called major arteries to the central business district Kampala. If I use medical language, an artery, I think, is a vein that supplies blood to the body. Now, where is that thing that people use to cover like a pen or something? That
Your cursor is moving.
okay, my cursor is moving. Okay, that's okay. Now, if you look at my cursor, if you look at the yellow roads, like this one where you see A109, that one, you look at this other one up here that has Nansana, Gombe, Kachiri, Lukoma, Namayumba. You look at this other one that has Matuga, Kungu. There's this other one that has Chevando, Chambogo, Seta, Mukono, Chetume. Then there's this other one that has Kajansi. Then this other one has Chengera. Now, we call those major arteries to the city. If you look at our city, Kampala, it is supplied by all these other roads exiting, okay, which are a number. The first one here where my cursor is, where you see Kajansi, that's Entebbe Road. It supplies into the city. The second one where you see my cursor moving now, that's a Masaka Road. It begins at Busega, you go to Chengera, you move through Nsanji, Budo, Katende, all the way to Mpiji, Mpambire, up to the time you reach Masaka. The third one is where my cursor is now, Bulenga, Bulova, Bujuko, Buyala, Zigoti, Mitiana, up to the time you get to Mubende, Fort Poto, and all other areas. Where my cursor is now is Hoima Road, where you see Nansana, there's Naruvule there, there's Wakiso, Gombe, Kachiri, until you get to Hoima. That's Hoima Road. Then this other one is what we call Bombo Road, the one which starts at Wandegeya, Bwaise, Kawempe, Maganjo, Kawanda, Matuga, Bombo, Wobulenzi, Luwero, all the way to Gulu. And then there's this other one that most people love, which is Ginger Road. Okay, it starts where you go to Chambogo, Chireka, Boyogere, Seta, Mukono. When you reach Mukono, you can either branch to Katosi Road going towards Chisoga, or you can take left and then go to Chisowera, Kabembe, Chiyunga, Nachifuma, all the way to Kayunga. And then you can circle back and come to the bridge, or you can use this main road and come back to the bridge. Why did I bring this? To still acquaint people with the fact that we have different locations that can qualify to be prime in any area. Now, if I move to my next slide, where I have kind of, tried to open other areas, you see that we have different areas in all those arteries. Let me explain the green, and maybe, is it brown? Yeah, I don't know. Has my slide moved now?
No, move again.
There?
No. I don't know why the slide share has yes, now it has moved.
Okay. Now, I've made this one a little bit more elaborate to basically still point your mind to two things. You can look at the middle there where you see a lot of congestion, or I could say faint brown, or maybe like dust. Now, those are houses. As you move outside, I want you to notice that the green keeps on increasing. And as you come inside the picture, where you see my cursor here, where you see the word Kampala, File Office, Chebando, Nakawa, Latitude, Bunamwaya, you see that area is a little bit congested and no green. I use that to tell people that where you see no green, it means that bare land or empty land is over. Okay? And now where you see green, it means that we have a lot of land there that is bare and easy to purchase. All these areas where you see green. Now, even in these areas where you see the faint brown, the land for purchase is there, but the affordability becomes relative depending on the pocket that you have. Prices tend to go higher, but as you move to areas where you see green, prices tend to go lower and it becomes affordable in the normal sense, depending on your pocket. I am showing this to still emphasize the part where your mind can open to new possibilities of getting prime land in a prime location, even if it's not in Kampala. That let's say I move where you see my cursor is, and I go and I go and I go and I go like this. Here I have reached an area called Luwunga. I have come to this area called Luwunga because I know it. It is quite far away from Kampala, but it is as prime as it sounds. Now, you can go in this area and acquire land which you will use for commercial purposes, and you'll still make all the money. To use this, I have a lady friend that lives in Luwunga. She bought a 50 by 100 piece plot very cheaply in their trading center. It's until I went to visit that area that I realized that very many people live in this very secluded area with a lot of migration from Kampala because it is becoming very expensive to this area. Now, what she did was to construct a hardware in this area, and she has made too much money because people cannot leave this area to come to, let's say, Hardware World or all the big hardwares to buy and then transport them back. So she has like captured this area, and everyone in this area buys from her because she has gotten her prime here. The same happens in all other areas. It could be your village, it could be where you're born, let's say in Fort Portal or Wobulenzi, where you go to a very busy town in Wobulenzi and you buy land in the nearby town at a very cheap cost, or what we call affordable. And then you decide to conquer that area and you'll make a lot of money in that area, because if you had, let's say, only 20 million shillings, even if you want, I will say this as a joke, even if you wanted us to get some land for you in a sack and give you at 20 million here in the city center, they might not give you. Yet if you move on one of the arteries, as I have showed, any place that you desire, you go to an urban center and you capture it, you'll be able to make too much money. Because as I pointed in the beginning slide where I was talking about urbanization, that people are moving to go and live in those areas. And as we are aware, this area called Kampala is no longer so affordable. And now, since it's not very affordable, people are moving away to go and live in all these other areas where you see green. Okay? I am saying this because I have seen it. I have moved to areas very far out of Kampala, and people are too many there. Now, still, this explains that all these areas that we love, you see Busega, Lugala, Lunguja, Namirembe, Nakulabye, you see, if you look for the green, the only green that I see is here Mengo, and you know that is the Kabaka's palace. The green is not there at all. It means that the bare or empty land for purchase has reduced, and the more brown you see, the more expensive it gets. We reach a point that we call market saturation, that the market for land in that area has saturated, meaning that supply of land for purchase is minimal. Actually, what we call it individual sale without marketing, that it is impossible to go and find an advert of land for sale at City Square or Kampala Road, even if it is there. You can never see that advert. Why? Now, land in that location is saturated. The people that own land along Kampala Road, or okay, the people that own buildings along Kampala Road can only sell to themselves. They cannot sell to the open market. So that's what I intended to show you of how you can acquire prime land at a low cost, to paint the picture that prime is not Kampala, prime is not Wandegeya, prime is not Entebbe, but you can get prime in other locations that serve similar characteristics. I'll finish by talking about an informal economy, that a country like Uganda thrives predominantly on an informal economy, that there is too much business that occurs outside the formal economy that is aggregated at amounts bigger than the formal economy. That if I deal in restaurant business, of course, restaurant business in Kampala is making too much money, but I can still go and niche, let's say an area called Luwero or Wobulenzi or Bombo, and capture a market there, and craft a product for them, and I'll still make the money, yet I have spent less than other people are spending, or I have spent within what I have. I'll keep it at that, and thank you, Rita.
Thank you so much, Rogers. Do we have any questions? Are there people with questions? I think my first question is I know one of the things that they keep telling us is once you get a job, you need to save and buy land. But how does one buy land on our kind of economy where we don't earn that much, and the cost of living, and like most of us stay in Kampala. So how much should one have for starters? What's the bare minimum to get that prime land in those areas you've mentioned? Yeah, in this economy.
Okay, I'll answer that. I'll say, you see, it is very easy to acquire land. What has made it hard for people to acquire land is the desire to acquire, for lack of a better word, let me say, what they cannot afford. Okay, that a person has money, they have had, let's say, their 5 million, 8 million, or 10 million on their account, but because every time they think of buying land, they land on plots of 80 million, 50 million, 100 million, and then they get discouraged. That's why I tried to paint this picture that even with the little that you have, let's say you've been able to save 8 million, 7, 10, you can get land with that 10 million in an area that will make you happy, as long as you get out of this shell of, I want there in Garuga. But to elaborate more on your question, the best way to acquire land if you don't earn much is through installment purchases. That, depending on where you have got or who you are dealing with, it is easier to pay for land in installments than a lump sum, because the lump sum money might not be there. So the technique there is mainly with who you are dealing with, that the person selling land to you, are they willing to give you enough time to pay? Are they willing to take the installments? How much time are you willing to take, and how much time are they willing to give? Now, if that equation is solved, it becomes very, very easy. That, depending on your financial discipline, if you have agreed with someone that you're going to pay for land over the next 8 months, and I'll be, let's say, depositing 500 or 1 million or 1.5 per month, and that agreement is there, as long as you respect it, in the end, you'll have land. I'll give an example of a very simple lady who doesn't earn more than, let's say, over 800,000 a month. that bought land from us in, I think, 2018. And when I remember how the other lady bought land, I still cannot believe it. She used to pay or to deposit the smallest monies possible. You'll be there and she has deposited 300 on the account. After 3 weeks, she deposits 200 on the account. After a month, she deposits 500 on the account. After 2 weeks, she deposits 200. And I got shocked. In a period of about 7 to 8 months, she had paid over 14 million shillings. And now she owns the land and it's in a good location. So those are the major two ways. Discover where you can go at that money and look for installment payments. It is the best. I don't advise people to go in for loans. Of course, we have people that offer financial services where you get a loan and then pay back the loan. But if interest is going to be much for you, discuss with the person, pay in installments where you eliminate the component of interest because it's an extra cost. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is very encouraging. There's another question in the chat that says, how does one reconcile accessibility and travel time with such a paradigm shift of the new prime land you've spoken about? So for people who work in Kampala, how does one reconcile it with accessibility and travel?
Okay. Thank you, Rita. I always answer that question in light of the future. The truth is, it is hard to move, let's say, from certain areas to come to Kampala to work. That is a fact. You cannot be living in Bombo. Okay, Bombo is really very near. You can live in Bombo and work in Kampala. Let's say you cannot be living, let's say, in Luero and you're working in Kampala. Though I know people that do it, but let me use it as an example. It is hard. But I tell people to look at the future. You're not going to be doing that travel to work for the rest of your life. At a certain point, you should see yourself independent. You should see yourself a businessman. You should see yourself a businesswoman. I always tell people, I work in the university. I live in Kampala. But I don't see myself leaving this town at my level in the next about 5 years. I'm leaving. So I tell people that a time is going to come where we must live in Kampala, whether leave Kampala and go, whether we want or we don't want. We must leave this city. So a time is going to come and you're the richest businessman in Semuto. And let me tell you, you'll be making enough money and you'll be having a big house there and you'll be taking your children to, let's say, a very wonderful boarding school nearby. And you won't need anything in this town. I mean, we know very rich men in Gulu. We know very rich men in Barara. We know very rich men in Ibanda, Isingiro, Ntungamo, Chisoro. And they don't even know how Kampala looks like. They have lived all their life there. They have captured that area. They own over how many plots in Isingiro. They have too much money and they have made all that money from there. The same applies to all these other areas. A man left Kampala, let's say 5 years ago. He went to Kapeka. He captured Kapeka. He built a very big house in Kapeka. He doesn't need anything with our chaos here. So to answer that question, look at the future. Say, okay, let me get this land, but in the next 5 years, I'll reduce my travel time by going to live there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any more questions? I think I like how you have highlighted that the businesses we run in Kampala, we can still conquer. I think for me, it was that scripture in Deuteronomy that says you'll be blessed in the country and also be blessed in town. Yeah, so interesting. I've never viewed it like that, like the businesses you want to run in Kampala, you can actually conquer them in the villages. And that's true. There are people that are actually wealthy in Bara. Interesting.
Very
Yeah.
wealthy.
Are there any other questions? Friends, any questions? Maybe as people plan to ask, Rogers, where can someone find you? In case someone wanted to start this journey of buying land, where can they find you? How can they contact you? so that they can start this conversation.
Okay. Yeah, maybe just to still add something small that I had intended to say that I had forgotten. And I know most of the people on the call are aware that this city we are clinging on is becoming hard or harder to live in by the day. In all aspects, it could not probably be purely affordability, but in all other aspects, it could be in safety, uh, purity of the air that you breathe. The other day I was reading a research of people that have made how impure, or Rita, you're the medical person, if the air you're breathing is not pure, the word is impure or contaminated.
It's contaminated.
Yes, they were doing a research of how contaminated the air we breathe in Kampala is. Congestion, disease, affordability. So this Kampala we are clinging on is becoming harder and harder and harder to live in by the day. But to answer your question, I am available uh, mainly mainly through a phone call. I have an office where I might not even step like in a whole week because most of my business involves moving. But I can tell people once you give me a call, that is a sure deal that you'll get me, or once you send me a WhatsApp message. So I can share my number. You can call me. We can always uh, speak on whether we want to meet or we speak on a phone call or we just chat. But a phone call is the easiest way to get me. So I can share my number in the chat. Let me
Yeah,
see if I can.
please share your number. And also, there are people that have more questions. Lillian is asking, how do you start to deal in land or real estate as a business? Not necessary to for building a house for you to stay. So, how does one deal in it as a business?
Okay. Land is a good business. It only has one challenge. You remember why in economics or something, it's very capital intensive. That if you're going to deal in it as a business, for example, Lillian, uh, I know you're in, recreation, restaurant, blah, blah, blah. You know that probably if someone wants to start a beach or a good restaurant, you need this much for the minimum. Now, that's the problem with land, that it is very capital intensive, that you would need a huge sum to start. I always tell people that right now, the way I know land business, if you had 50 million shillings, you would struggle. I cannot say you cannot do the business. You can start with 50 million shillings, but you would struggle so much. It's like you wanting to start restaurant business and then you have one saucepan. You can cook with the nakati, put in a bowl, cook with the sauce, put in a bowl, but you struggle with one saucepan. So the problem with land business, it is very capital intensive. You need too much money even to start at the lowest level. For example, right now, I tell people you need an average of 150 to begin at the lowest level where you can now gata a few things and you move like 150 million at the moment. Because with 150 million, you can get a minimum or an average of, let's say, 2 acres, which are good and you will sell easily. You have all other costs involved in processing land titles, marketing, grading, surveying, making roads. All those things are too expensive. So that's how you can start as long as you have a good sum of money, slightly above 100, you can begin on a good scale.
Yeah, thank you so
Land
much.
size,
There's
I'm
another
seeing land
question she
size.
said, she asked, sorry, the one about like if someone wants to do real estate, do you still advise the same to buy in those prime the upcoming prime places?
The challenge is that we are just forcing the mindset. People are still not yet very open, especially if they are not going prime, if they are not into business. They are still a little bit slow. So right now, us who are in the business are trying to get as close as possible where people have understood. But for prime locations, especially in urban centers, it is very easy. You will move very fast. But if you're doing it the opposite, it becomes harder.
Okay,
I'm trying to read Elijah's question, which I seem not to. How do we approach prime land purchase in terms of size in locations you alluded to? If you are talking about size, the minimum size of land is a 50 by 100 feet or 11.5 decimals or 15 meters by 30 meters. That's the minimum allowed nationally for titled land if you want to have a land title. For land without a land title, you can get any size as you want, whether smaller or bigger. But if it's titled, it must be 50 by 100 feet or 11.5 decimals or 15 meters by 30 meters minimum.
Or maybe let me clarify on that question. You see how you have said that titled land already has particular dimensions to it. One of the challenges that we have, of course, like in places of Kampala, we're already limited. When you're buying land, you're going to have to buy it on 50 by 100, 100 by 100 feet. And now in areas of course, like where you're speaking about prime land, I believe that limitation is not very strong there. And then the issue of titling, of course, comes in. So my question was around that. Many times there's been a challenge of Kampala. We are always told you only have 50 by 100, 100 by 100. But of course, a person like me, if I'm thinking about moving to a prime location outside Kampala, I'm thinking of not being limited by that. Are there things that I need to look out for? How does that go about? How does that look like? Is it possible to have titled land? Because I think that's what brought me to the next question of encroachment and, theft, things like that, that get to happen when you're not staying in a location. You've bought land, it's not exactly 50 by 100, maybe it's more. That's where my questions are coming from.
Okay. I'll speak about the minimum. That regulation is national for all physical planning areas. The regulation of minimum 50 by 100 is national for titled land. Whether you go in Mbarara, whether you're in Gulu, as long as you're processing a title, it is national. This issue of Kampala, blah, blah, it's in Buganda because Buganda, the 1900 Buganda Agreement favored Buganda. So for them, their entire parcel is, let's say, about 80% titled, all the way to Rakai, Nakasongola, the entire Buganda. But even outside Buganda, people have freehold land titles in Mbarara, people are processing freehold land titles in Gulu, everywhere. The regulation of minimum 50 by 100 is national. But we have what we call customary land, or what people know as Kabaka land here in Buganda. That one, people can do any size that they want. That's why we tend to discourage it, because it is not as meticulous in terms of encroachments, dimensions, title, documentation. So we tend to discourage it because it doesn't match those principles. You can buy, but informally, because not all land in the whole country is titled. You might go, let's say, you go to Chisoro and you find a man selling in Chisoro town, but I've looked at land titles freehold in Chisoro town. So any area can have a land title you can transform it from what we call customary land, which is not titled. You convert it to freehold land, and they will give you a land title for that freehold. And as they are giving you land title for freehold, the regulation of minimum 50 by 100 comes into play. You can go above for as much as you want. You can have a title for 10 acres, 3 acres, 100 by 100, but minimum, as long as they are giving you a land title, should be 50 by 100 feet. Thank you.
I have a question in regard to that, Rogers. How do you the safeguards that Elijah is asking, especially when you're buying up country? Sometimes you find that like the heir is the one selling, but they have like those agreements have not been made, especially in villages. And you find after you've purchased, even sometimes these days, even the chairmen are not trustworthy. Then you end up like the family now again comes up with this land can't be sold and things like that. I am requesting for guidance on that, especially with up country. And then also, how do
Okay.
you
Probably
have it?
I can.
Like, okay, when you buy, I think Elijah had already asked, what are those measures you put in place? Because yes, you can have a title, but there is something about people encroaching on that land that is not in use. And maybe that you don't follow up often. Yes.
Okay. So I'll take it through your host that maybe if she finds it befitting, we can organize another call where I can talk about due diligence and land security as a topic, and then we can elaborate. But probably to say, because it's long for me to elaboratively answer that question, but I can talk about number one in summary what we call family consent. We must have what we call family consent in those locations that are not yet titled. We have what we call an area land committee. We have what we call a district land board, where all those people must be involved in this purchase, or clan heads, because customary land, if you read about customs, customs means, local regulations and rules of the area. Those people used to be like, this land belongs to this family, this land belongs to this clan. And now for such properties, you can never buy from an individual. It's always clan land or family land, where you have what you must have: spousal consent, family consent, and consent or knowledge of the area land committee, not even just the chairperson. And then, of course, land security. There are very many measures that you can put in place if you've bought land, and make sure it is safe, which is an inside out methodology that if you didn't secure yourself at purchase, it becomes hard to secure yourself after purchase. It's like you're doing damage control. I have very many properties that I can even take 6 to 7 months where I have not visited, but because I know I secured them, the boundaries, the inside, all the markstones on the corners, I secured them before purchase. So right now, it is hard for anyone to encroach because I did the work in the beginning. But when you mess in the beginning, then you realize that, oh, they sold to you something, then you have to do damage control, put poles, try to build a fence. But even if you build a wall fence and you didn't secure yourself in the beginning, they will break it down. So it's a long conversation that we can have, but those are the few bullets I can give.
Thank you so much, Rogers. Indeed, we'll organize another session where we'll talk about land security. Land is really a wide topic, and I don't think we can cover it in one session, but we'll organize another setting where we will talk about it. Thank you so much. I don't know if there are more questions. Are there any more questions? Okay, looks like there are no questions in the chat as well. Yeah, I think my other take home is, besides the fact that you can really capitalize and grow wealthy everywhere, I think there's also that component of due diligence, and changing our mindsets. I think it's a very huge thing to change your mindset, to view the city as not just Kampala, but even those other locations. Yeah. Thank you so much, Rogers, for your time and your knowledge. Indeed, we'll organize another session. It will be like maybe like a different setup where we'll talk about due diligence, saving up for land, etc. And also, I think when you shared about this woman that earns really, that was sending 200, 300, 100, that was very encouraging. That means you don't need to have it all together. And that's one of the things we're encouraging this year. You don't need to have it all together to start. So I hope that people on the call will reach out and explain their budget, and then have the conversation on how to start, on how to purchase this land, which deposits, how many months, so that at the end of the day, we are all landowners. I'll read your contact, or some people will reach out on YouTube. So I'll just I'll just put your contact in the description box, so that if people listen to the conversation, they're still able to reach out. Yeah, that's it for now. Thank you guys for joining in. If you have more questions, you can raise inbox, and I will forward them to Rogers so that he can respond. Also, yeah, maybe he'll put up a Q&A. Yeah, so you can always reach out to my inbox. Unless there's something else that someone wants to say, I think we are done for now. I'll just ask someone to give us a concluding prayer. I don't know if Elijah is still on call. Okay, he has left. Okay. Lily, are you able to pray? Elijah is on call.
Yes, please. Let's
Yes.
pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you so much for this morning. We thank you for the gift of the knowledge that you have given to Rogers, and for the willingness you've given to him to come and share with us and help